Earlier this week, the USFL finally dropped it. Everything people have been looking for. We've been asking. We've been crying. We've been begging. Please, Papa USFL, give it to us. They gave it. They brought it. The USFL rules. Sign us up. And I mean, I like them. I'm not mad. I'm out of it. I don't even know how to I got the segue, but I don't know how to transition to you. I don't know what's going on here.
I don't want to. I think you were trying to ask me what do you think? I'm like, I'll put it as best as I can put it as the all-stars of spring football adaptation is how I put this. For the most part, there are one or two elements that are either that are changed up to where I think it tweaks it to make it more efficient for how you want to play the game, or it's stuff that we haven't fully seen that, it's kind of like there are a lot of hybridizing of things I've seen in this rule set. Again, a lot of the big ones that they brought out, we've seen some of these in spring football, but, they're good things that they're pulling, there's stuff. It doesn't feel gimmicky because they're things that have either worked or we've wanted to see put into play.
Right.
That's why I like them. Well, I am overall a fan of this rule set.
I am too. It's kind of like the best of what we've seen the last few years, kind of all the different pop-ups, the AAF, the XFL, the Spring League even as well. But then even, like you mentioned, tweaked a little bit beyond that. So, I mean, the first one up here, and we'll play the video, the extra points. So let me run to the video real quick, and then we'll go over everything after that.
In the USFL, when you score a touchdown, you've got 3 options. You can kick the 1-point extra point, snapping it from the 15-yard line. That'll get you 1 point. Or you can put the ball at the 2, run a scrimmage play, and get 2 points. But if you want to go for 3, they'll put the ball at the 10. You run a scrimmage play, it's successful for a score, you get 3 points. Which means if you're behind by 9 after that touchdown, you could tie the game. And more importantly, a 2-score game is an 18-point difference. This is the USFL.
So, at initial glance, people are looking at this and say, well, they just copied the XFL. But they didn't. Now, there is 3 opportunities here. You have a 1-point, a 2-point, and a 3-point shot. But unlike the AF, unlike the XFL, we have an extra point kick. So the 1 point is a kick. And I like to see that. I'm a big fan of kickers. I think there's a lot of them. I mean, again, as a Lions fan, Jason Hanson, that was like our star player for over 20 years.
Right.
So you got to have love for a kicker. So they're getting that love there. Now, additionally, we have a 2 and a 3-point play, but that's slightly different as well. Do you want to run them through those changes?
Yes. So there was a 1-2-3 system with the XFL, and that's what's been keyed in a lot by people. It's like, well, this looks very familiar. It's like, you're right. The overall core concept is indeed familiar. Difference is, no extra point kicks. So we have the kick returning for a 1 point. So you're going back all the way to the 15 like the NFL. The 2-point, though, uses the NFL 2-point line. It's at the 2-yard line. It starts there. The XFL started at and I got to reconfirm this on the fly because I had a brain fart. It started out at the 10 is what I am looking at right now. And if I messed it up, I'll change it because I know that the 3-point was at the 15. Mm-hmm. That was what the XFL's was.
Yeah, and the 3-point here is at 10.
I did get this right. So the XFL was originally for 2.0. You had a 2-yard attempt was 1, 5 was 2, 15 was, or 10 was 3. So they took
it was 15 for 3 in the XFL. It's 10 for 3 in the USFL.
Sorry, I messed it up. It was 10 yards as well in the XFL. In the USFL's version, essentially what they did is they have the kickback. So they brought the extra point as a kick per normal. They changed the 2-point and moved it up to the 2-yard line. And the 3-point stays at the same.
Yeah.
So essentially they incentivize, again, like it's taking mostly the NFL's standard rules. The only thing they're adding is the 3-point. Right. That's it. Well, and that's the only new addition here to what would be like comparing the NFL rule set that they're running with.
Now, and we'll get to it a little bit later on. So I like this, and I mean the big reason is it creates different types of strategies. Right now, if you're down by 9, you can tie the game on one drive, but it does worry me that we might not see overtime. Now we're not going to jump into the overtime yet. We're going to save that one for a little bit later on here.
Hold your horses.
But I do like I always thought that was exciting in the XFL. I think it's going to be exciting here. And now what I'm looking forward to is what team is the team that claims we want the 3 every time? Because I know down in Houston with the Gamblers, everybody is chanting, go for 3 every drive or every opportunity there. Mm-hmm. And I fully expect that we're going to get that team or that coach that's itching to just maybe not win a game, but win a game by a lot. Try to get it as unattainable as possible. Now, it definitely does come with danger, because I mean you're only getting 6, right? You might not get that 3, right? So.
Yeah, I tweeted this out when they posted the rule, and we had all the rules even as they were doing these posts. Like they dragged them out through the day, as they've done with other announcements. Mm-hmm. For this though, it's comes down, at least for extra points, do the coaches want to gamble it? Do they want to be risky and go for that 3-point attempt? And again, I only bring this up because of the set that was used in the XFL out of just necessity of comparison. Early on kind of wasn't a thing. Like, it was really more the standard 1, maybe 2. We rarely got the 3. Very seldomly did. I don't know if I'm going to say that early on, and this is my prediction on this, I think it'll be a similar deal where you're going to see coaches that they will be conservative on using the 3 only in extreme measures because of the fact that it is a 10-yard play. Mm-hmm. But I think, and I hope, that the 2-point is used way more because of the fact that this set, they push it right to the 2-yard line like the NFL, and they're trying to incentivize, if all the coaches are talking offense like they did in those interviews for social, I would hope to God that's what they are wanting to do more often. I mean, if they get that shot,
it seems like the risk is much more worth the reward there. 10 yards as opposed to 2, right? Mm-hmm. I feel, and I mean, for only a 1-point difference. Now, if it was a 4-point from the 10, and maybe I'm getting a little too crazy, I think we might see a little bit more. So I tend to agree with you. I think we're going to see a lot of 2s. And quite honestly, I think we're going to still see the traditional kick in a lot of cases, unless teams start getting down, or again, kicker gets injured, something of that nature. You don't want to see it, but it is possible. At least now you have some different opportunities. But I like the coming back part of it, like the option, I guess the extra reality of closing out a game that normally would have an unattainable end, or at least harder to reach. Now, the instant replay rules we're seeing here, they're going to essentially have a replay command center in Los Angeles, making all of the reviews. So I assume this is where Mike Pereira is going to be hanging out. He's not going to be coming out to Birmingham.
This will be his personal playground, or his I would almost, at least where his natural habitat is how I look at it.
Right.
Take his normal job with Fox and just add that extra element of, I get to, as he's talked on the green light when he was on there about a month or plus or so ago, this is where I get to be an experiment and, adjust what I feel should be different.
Right.
So replays, this is going to be emphasized a lot, mm-hmm.
Especially
since 1 coach's challenge is allowed per game.
Right.
Just 1. Not even halves. They don't even split that sounded silly. I'm thinking timeouts. Mm-hmm. I rephrase. Still, it's only 1.
1. And I mean, I get it. Like they state here, the reason is to improve the game flow. They don't want a lot of stops. I could see that maybe changing for season 2. Looking at the replay crew, the team of 1 in Los Angeles, their reasoning here is accurate, consistent, faster rulings. That makes sense to me, right? I mean, different people think differently, so naturally, if you have the same group or person making those decisions, they're going to probably be pretty consistent across the board. But yeah, the challenges, that might be a little slim. But I mean, I get it. They want to keep these games moving. They want to fit within their time slots. They don't want to have a lot of overages. So I'm not mad at it. I mean, looking back at the spring league last year, I'm trying to think of a game where we saw more than one challenge. I know there was a couple maybe where it happened. So, I mean, yeah, we could see this one change maybe for season 2. Not mad at it, but would like to see maybe a second one in there.
Well, and go back here. Time travel to back to 2019. The Alliance of American Football. The Sky Judge, as much as the AAF does get a bad rap for how it went down and how it ended and the behind the scenes, that was one of the things that came out of it that has been talked about since that aired, has been used in other leagues that are not the NFL. It's been brought up in the NFL's competition committees, not implemented yet, but the USFL takes it. And I like it because of the fact that you're getting an extra oversight. If it is that bad of a call or something that, the officiating crew sees, they have a little more control to say, stop everything. Let's take another look at this right off the gate. And in terms of the AAF used it a little bit. The XFL definitely had instances. Some they didn't. And this is what I'm going to be watching with this rule set. When do they use it? When do they not use it? Because I remember one instance in the Texas Showdown in the XFL. There was, I believe it was one completed pass. I believe it was for Houston or Dow. I believe it was for Houston that got a completion. And they just straight up didn't review it. And it was like obviously not complete or something along that line. My thing is how attentive will they be and how often will they catch things that are supposed to be designed for that? Because that's going to get brought up. And, that's of course on Mike Pereira and his team. I think he knows that. There's enough examples of this being out there, but that's something to watch for. Because they get to basically say, we're going to shut down our crew or basically halt them, and we can overrule them at any given time, because human error happens. That's the whole design of this is human error can make you miss things in real-time speed. So they're supposed to be behind you for got your back.
Well,
that's how it is.
I mean, kind of looking at what we were just talking about, hopefully it is the kind of having that central location does just make it consistent. So we don't see that it happens sometimes, doesn't happen other times. So, I mean, time will tell. We'll see how all of these play out through the season. Again, some of these are experiments. I don't know which ones there will be, but I feel like year 2 we'll probably see a tweak to some of these things. At least one, and maybe that's one of them. But now we have, moving over from the instant replay, though, we're going to go on to the kickoffs and punts. Do you want to go through, explain the kickoffs, what we got going on here?
Yeah, I'm gonna read off the kickoff here. So what we've got, all kickoffs will be from the 25-yard line. For those that are wanting to compare, the NFL kicks at the 35 now, and that was actually changed. That the NFL moved it up from what was a 25 because of certain instances. So interesting. They're starting at the 25 for kickoffs. So meanwhile, no kicking team member may line up any further back than 1 yard. So if we're talking line up at the 25, you can't run up onto it too far. You have to be right there when the kick goes. That's standard for kickoff there. Let's see, further back 1 yard, while the receiving team must have a minimum of 8 players set up in the setup zone between 35 and 45 yard lines. So 8 players have to line up upwards towards the front of that said kickoff area. After the kickoff travels 20 yards, the first touch must be made by the receiving team. If an untouched kick becomes dead, the ball belongs to the receiving team at that spot. So, and basically it's trying to kind of bring back some excitement from the original kickoff is what they're doing. Is it safer? They say it is. Now I might be misinterpreting the rule, but I'm reading this as it's mostly a traditional kickoff.
Right.
So safer, kind of up in the air for me.
I mean, we'll have to see how it plays out.
Again, I might be misreading that. So if I see something like the comments on YouTube and they're like, this is what it is, I'll gladly eat crow. But when I read this and I still read it this way, kind of just reads like the old NFL rule.
Right.
It's just they move the kickup line farther up and they're trying to get more kickoffs instead of doing the XFL style. Which people I've seen advocate for, but, I think at least you're going to get kickoffs more often. So that's great because
sure.
I like kickoffs. It's just that the injury risk obviously stands out for reasons.
Right on. Right on. So I mean, I'm not mad at it. It is a little bit different. We might see some of these things tweaked here. The punts, is there anything special about the punt? Gunners may not line up outside the numbers, and they cannot be double team blocked until the ball is kicked here. So let's see. Did they put a reasoning behind that? They don't have a reason and effect on that one per se. They just kind of wrapped them up together.
Yeah, they didn't really list that on the tweet. My reasoning I'll put an effect on here. Because yes, Gunners, the way they write this, Gunners do kind of get abused at the line. It's a normal thing. You'll watch an NFL game, and most of the time, Gunners do get double teamed. Reason being, they're designed to be the first ones at the point of contact to get the punt returner down. So I think they get more hits, so it's a little more of a safety issue, of course, and that since they're closer to sideline, you push them in the sideline, there's more bodies in the way. Lining them more inside keeps them on the field of play. So that's one thing it does. Another thing, keeping them inside, it is a more direct line to the kicker, albeit though, if the Gunners mess up, there's a lot less spread out, unless, of course, special teams coaches teach them to spread out, which they should. My idea is if the Gunners are inside, you have more outside alleys for a returner.
Right.
So it plays both ways to me. You keep the sideline a little more safer, and the Gunners don't get pushed out that way. But also, if they miss, they really miss. You can kind of get screwed if they aren't there. They should be right there.
Sure.
If it's a good punt.
Right. Speaking of kicking, though, onside kick, we're seeing a little bit of a tweak on this one. So what we'll do is we'll actually play the little recap video for that, and then we'll jump into the discussion. So we'll switch over there.
In the USFL, you have another option on top of the onside kick. We're going to give you a scrimmage play, 4th and 12 from the 33-yard line. If you make a first down, you keep the ball. If you don't, you're going to give the ball back to the defense. And if you're sacked, they may get the ball all the way down at the 10-yard line. A lot of risk, but a lot of reward. This is the USFL.
All right. So teams will have two options to retain possession of the ball after scoring. The first option, be a traditional onside kick, attempt from the 25-yard line. Now, the second option, I do like this, we'll be running a 4th and 12 play from their own 33-yard line. If a team makes a first down, it retains possession. If it fails, defense gets the ball. How do you feel about the tweak? I personally like it.
I like just having the variety. I'm going to be frank with you, because here's the deal. If it's an exciting offensive game and you're going back and forth and it comes down to, say, one possession that you need to get back really quick, to be honest with you, that's one that you can utilize that offense. Like, say you have the momentum right there. You just scored a TD and your team's on fire at the moment. They're gelling. Why risk the onside kick where to me there's pretty high odds of failing when you can credit it's 12 yards, but you have a damn good team together and you have your chemistry and everything with your receiver set up, or you have some excellent play calling. For sure.
You can
retain possession and keep that momentum running.
Well, and they even put in here in the reasoning too is, recovering an onside kick is pretty rare. Now, I have seen other teams do it better than others. I mean, the Lions, somehow, some way, that's the one thing they could do well is onside kicks. But it gives them another opportunity, something different to try to stay in that game. Or who knows, keep it going, right? Try to build on your lead. And you say, you know what? It's a tie game. There's a couple seconds left on the clock. Maybe we can waste time, get that play off.
You know what I would use this for? End of half. If you aren't trailing, say you are kicking off. Onside kick, kind of a risk. 4th and 12, you got, 15, 20 seconds. Maybe you're a bit cocky about your defense. You get one good play. Like, it's starting at the 33, by the way. So keep that in mind.
Right.
Like, a 12-yard conversion, you get to your own 45. You get a first down, which could easily get to the 50. Take 1 or 2 passes real quick. You're in a field goal position, my friend.
Oh, sure.
It's under 3 points. 3 points can be the difference in any game. I think that you can use that at the end of the half. Sure, you run out of time. Maybe you risk giving up a field goal, but at the end of the half, though, say you do want to, roll the dice.
Yep.
That's a great way to roll the dice. Otherwise, end of game, I like the option thing. The AAF, it had it where it was its thing. This one, it's both.
Right.
You can say you prefer the kick. You have a really damn good kicker. All right, shoot.
Right.
Well, let's make him have a play. I'll bite.
Exactly.
Onside kicks are still pretty exciting. Like
sure.
I get up off my seat when I watch one, and it doesn't matter if it's the Bears playing or anyone else in the NFL. Onside kicks get me excited.
Oh yeah, especially when they work, man. That's like, oh wow. And I mean, I'm a Lions fan. I've seen plenty of them, and I've seen a surprising amount of them work. We don't always win, but as is such with a Lions fan. One thing we do see as Lions fan quite frequently, though, overtime. I don't know why I squeezed that one in there, but I figure why the heck not.
But you aren't wrong, though. You aren't wrong.
I know.
You aren't wrong.
So, overtime, though, I figure let's run to the package on that one real quick. They did such a good job on these video packages. Why not show them off? So, head over to that.
In the USFL, overtime will be like you've never seen before. It's a best-of-3 shootout. We'll line up at the 2 and alternate possessions between the teams. If we're still tied after 3 possessions, then it's sudden death until we have a winner. This is the USFL.
All right, dude.
Yeah.
Overtime.
Yeah.
We alluded to it at the beginning with maybe we won't see it because we have the options of 1, 2, and 3 extra points. But what we kind of heard might be a possibility from Kyle Laletta a few weeks back has now come to fruition. We never saw it in the XFL. It is slightly different here as well. So we'll run through it. So overtime will be a best-of-3 play shootout. So we were kind of discussing, we knew it was going to be a shootout. We didn't know how many. Is it going to be sudden death a few weeks ago? Well, now we know. Best of 3 shootout, back and forth. Each team's offense will alternate plays against the opposing defense from the 2-yard line. Each successful scoring attempt will receive 2 points. So, again, similar to regulation play. The team with the most points after 3 plays wins. The subsequent attempts become sudden death if the score is tied after a team runs 3 plays. So, no ties in the XFL, and overtime ends once a winner is declared. I love to see it. I like it. I'm glad that we're getting the shootout. I'm really, really hoping we do see a game get into overtime so we can finally see this style of overtime in American football played. I mean, we were hoping for it before. Now we have our chance here. I think I know the answer, but break it down. What are your thoughts, good or bad?
Well, I like it. I mean, look, I'm referencing it because this is, again, the rule set is a mosh posh and all-star lineup of these rules from other spring leagues. They're taking the best elements and I'm a fan. So, we were 1 interception away in week 5 of 2020 from seeing a shootout. We were close. We were right on the doorstep. The Vipers just needed to get it in. Hey, Tampa Bay Vipers using the right sense in this case. I'm messing with you.
No, it's all
anyway,
good.
Anyway, one thing that's different here. So the original setup was 5. They cut it down to 3 rounds before they hit the shootout. And we haven't seen this in real-time play. Supposedly there's video of this out there somewhere in the great sphere that is the internet, or at least on a file drive or server somewhere that has footage of this happening and taking place at a practice. I would say it shortens down the game because they do want these kind of to end timely.
Right.
And because they do have back-to-back games on certain nights, we have a triple header on the opening weekend, for crying out loud. Not saying that will happen opening weekend, but if it does, you kind of have to wrap this thing up. So, yeah, 3 is a little shorter, and sudden death, in theory, should be a bit shorter too in that instance.
Maybe.
If you have a really good game like that.
Maybe we get a 10-round overtime.
Could you imagine three standard tie and then sudden death round 10 all of a sudden? Oh my God.
Dude.
Look what just happened. Like Clayton Thorson dropping it in there.
I know. Sign us up.
Or something like that.
Sign us. I wonder how many rounds would it go before they finally say it's a tie. Like that baseball, the All-Star game, I want to say a couple years ago, but I know it's probably over 10 years ago now.
I want to segue this so bad because I could right there with that call, but I'm going to hold off because of one of the rule sets.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, here okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Here. Imagine this. It's sudden death round 9. Michigan Panthers are lining up against the Generals. Paxton Lynch and Shea Patterson are lined up in the back or one's lined up out wide. Patterson runs a jet sweep. Paxton Lynch drops it for a first pass. Patterson then drops over to the right side, throws it to a wide open Jeff Badette for the game-winning touchdown.
I like what you did there. I like what you did there.
They brought back the 2 forward pass rule.
I like that. So real quick, let's jump to the package on that.
In the USFL, offenses will have more options than ever. Why? Because they can throw 2 forward passes behind the line of scrimmage. This will open up the playbook like never before. Imagine quarterback throwing the ball forward to a wide receiver, and then the wide receiver throwing the ball forward back to the quarterback who advances for a touchdown. Imagine the possibilities. This is the USFL.
Boom. How you like that? 2 forward passes. This is one of those things that I think people were jazzed up about in previous spring football leagues. I'm jazzed to see it here. Now, if you were to ask me, where am I most jazzed up to see it? Well, I think that's up there in the north with the Michigan Panthers. You got the Paxton Lynch. You used the example right there. I don't know why I'm stealing it from you. I mean, I don't know what I'm even doing there. First, I steal your spot on Pro Football Alliance a couple weeks ago. Now I steal your ideas. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is this week. It's an off week for the ref. I'm sure people are watching out there. Some of them realize something ain't right. But next week, like I said, when I have that Dallas skyline hopefully behind me, I will be in a much better place or more stressed out because I'm going to have to figure out how to do this on the fly. Anyway, double forward pass. How are you feeling?
Oh, I mean, I like this rule from a few years ago. So I'm already instantly in. Like I hear that, I'm like, yeah, just give me that. I liked it. And it has multiple applications. I mean, you can be a clever Pep Hamilton type and like do the example I said where shovel pass leads to then, doing like another trick play or something like that. So you can do it that way, or you can do it the Landry Jones way, which is, get it batted to you. And unlike those NFL people, you can throw it if it comes back to your hands, which I like because I mean, hey, a redo is a second chance at greatness. Well, why not take that second chance?
It creates exciting plays too. Again, more options. You're not bastardizing the game by adding something like this. And looking at least the idea of you're a little bit behind, time's running out, you want to try something different, boom, it's there, it's on the docket. I expect we'll see it. I don't know if we'll see it week 1. I don't know if we'll even see it week 3, but we will see it. And I'm excited to see it.
I can already think of other possibilities. Like, okay, here's another one. Mm-hmm. Screen passes.
Oh, right.
Think about this. The screen. You already bailed part of the line out. They're freaking out. Here comes the lineman. Oh, wait. Look who's deep down there. As long as the running back's, of course, good enough to throw. Or maybe you screen. Again, similar situation with the Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
You screen pass it to like Paxton Lynch and Paxton drops a dime or something. Like, I'm just thinking of ways that like we didn't even see with like the XFL's usage of this that I'm like, I would love someone to write up trick plays with the 2 forward passes even farther.
Oh, right.
It's possible.
I mean,
I need to write these things down.
I feel like
them over.
Beyond Michigan, because we talked about the quarterbacks there, but 2 coaches jump out to me. I feel like Bart Andrus is someone that would fully experiment with something like this. I could see Mike Riley experimenting with something like this.
Well, definitely Mike Riley,
right?
With Johnson there too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think, it a little bit of excitement. We're not going to see it all the time, so it's not going to be like overkill. We're not going to see every play as here you go, flink, right? That's not how it's going to be. But when we do see it, it's going to be the pop moment when everybody's watching at home or watching in the stands, like, oh, they're doing the thing. Like sign me up there.
I want the tricks to get the treats, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wanting.
So let's run into the next one here. Timing. Speaking of which, we're doing pretty good on time. Went out of order on the segue there, but nonetheless, we had to screw it up sometime. So we have timing rules. So the clock will stop for the first downs inside 2 minutes of the second and fourth quarters. So kind of giving you that opportunity so the time's not running out on you, ending out the half, ending out the game. So according to them, it creates more offensive plays during the final 2 minutes of each half. And the reason it adds offense and excitement before halftime and at the end of the game. We saw something similar to this in other leagues in the past as well. I do like it. It's when you're trying to come back, another one of those options. You're down by 9, 30 seconds left on the clock in something like the NFL. That ain't happening. In something like the USFL, honestly, you could be down by over 9 points and you might be able to get it flipping done. You might. If you can get a fumble on the kickoff. Like, there's some opportunities there to make some exciting games. And so, I'm not mad at it. I like to see it. And I don't think anybody online was especially angry at any of these rules, but I don't think I heard many people speak about this one at all. This was the one that wasn't really, like, it didn't have a lot of sizzle. It didn't have a video package. But, to me, is a very integral rule in how these games are going to play out. So I like to see it. But thoughts. Do you like that they kind of brought that over? Do you want the more traditional? Good, bad?
Well, I like it just because it goes along with what has been talked about so far. So you're hearing it from all these coaches and personnel. We want offense. We want high scoring games. We want to have, we want to have games that people want to watch. So what creates more offensive opportunities? Slowing down the game at the end of the half when things do get hectic at the 2 minute warning. So you are going to college timing rules, which if you get a first down, the clock stops. And that's if in college, it's every first down, the clock stops, right, if you get a first down. So they took it and they just kind of hybridized it. They said, all right, we're not having a running clock, but we're having a standardized, like NFL clock or professional clock that is during the time. 2 minute warning, 2 minute drill type of scenario. Yeah, that's when I want to make sure I can score the most points and get what I can before the end of a half, or I'm trying to come back. And this is kind of emphasizing and giving an incentive to say, hey, you're going to get more chances as long as you get those first downs. So, opportunities to get a comeback or opportunities to keep the excitement going. Right. Is what this does. That's all this. I think this is more of a rule to add to the entertainment value. That's what you're getting out of this one.
Oh, for sure. And I'm already imagining the excitement in some of these games that we're going to see where 30 seconds, again, that 9 point gap now becomes attainable. And I'm very excited to see some coaches even capitalize, maybe going into halftime where maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they'd say, well, we don't want to risk throwing the ball away. We're going to run the clock out. Maybe this gives them like, well, you know what? We can space this out. We just need to play it smart. We just need to play smart ball. Don't give up the ball. That's the easiest thing to say. Don't drop the football, right? It's so easy for us to say that. But realistically, it really comes down to the coaches, the players on the field, things like that. I like it. The excitement factor is really the big reason why. And it kind of goes against some of their other rules because it actually elongates the time where they're trying to shorten the game. But I think it's important that they did do it this way just so we can see that excitement. Now, maybe this gets tweaked in the next year. Maybe this changes. Maybe it goes further the way it is. Maybe it backs off. I don't know. But, we won't know until we play a couple of these games.
It works fine in college. That's how I see it. So like, it's not really a big problem in college. I think it'll be fine. I just think it's a hybridization of like, it's an added extra tension where it's like even, even if you say you have a defensive presence, if you get one first down, that clock stops. Now your defense is back on the heels where it's like the clock's not your friend for a little bit. You do have to get your stops are, even more important to really just keeping possessions where downs are mattering more, wasting more time. That's how it is. Cause like NFL, unless you clock the ball or you have a timeout, the clock's your friend for defense all the time. But if you're getting first downs, then defensively you're like, oh crud, this is moving a little too quickly for me, pulling the collar moment. Like, I don't know. That's the way I justify it. It works in college
for sure,
and it works well. That's how I like it.
I mean, the only other really way to stop the clock is with a good old penalty. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I mean, you can.
Which takes us into our next little segment on the rules here. So we have. I don't know what's up with me today. I'm either really on or I'm way off. But we have some good old. We're going to start with this defensive pass interference. Well, actually, we're going to go. Yeah, defensive pass interference. We'll go into, and then I'll pass it over for offensive. I don't know. I can either talk really good or can't talk at all today. I don't know what's going on. We're almost done, folks. We're getting to the end. So anyway, penalty for defensive pass interference will mirror the NCAA rule with exceptions. So a little bit of a tweak here. First, a defender intentionally tackling a receiver beyond 15 yards would become a spot foul. Also, the penalty will be a spot foul if it occurs 15 yards or less from the line of scrimmage, or a 15-yard penalty from the line of scrimmage if the spot of the foul is beyond 15 yards. So the rationale, the effect, it reduces penalty yardage. And the reason, it decreases punitive nature of defensive pass interference penalties. Now, we could see both sides of this. This is one of these that I can't remember where it was talked about. I want to say it was Mike Pereira joined an interview maybe about a month ago.
I think it was the same green light one we've been referencing.
Right. It was. So this one, maybe not a huge surprise. I think this is basically what he outlined on the show. So I don't think there's any changes there. I remember us talking about this, though, again, went over 3-4 weeks ago. And I was maybe bullish on the rule. And there were some folks, I want to say, in the comments that said it could maybe be abused, right? And so maybe I'll just have to see how it plays out. It's one of those. So I did have an opinion. I don't know if it's changed yet. Thoughts on what you're thinking here?
So here's my deal with the defensive part of it. So I like the college rule to a degree, because I don't like seeing a game get flipped because, say, one too much of a pull on a jersey, and I'm not even talking like if it's egregious, it's egregious, okay? Right. But if we're talking like it kind of like in real time, it looked like it, but it wasn't really something, and you're giving up like 60 yards because a quarterback said, maybe it's a flag, I'll throw it up there, that kind of stuff. Nah, I'm not a fan, because that just rewards a penalty. That just rewards a flag being thrown for a defender having to act in the moment and hoping that the ref looks at it and says, yeah, look close enough in certain instances. So I like that. However, they added in the little twist where if it's an intentional tackle. So that's a judgment call rule, because, okay, some are obvious. Some, did he trip? Right. Did he not trip in real time? And credit, this could be interpreted by the command center. This is one I think the command center is going to get tested a lot on, is what's an intentional tackle? Yeah. Well, that is a tricky one, right? Right. And because it's a judgment call to me. So, Pereira has stressed he doesn't like judgment calls in officiating. This is one I'm kind of like, yeah, but this is, you have to make a judgment on that if it is the case. And the command center will be the one that, if it's very egregious, they'll step in. But I think many times they'll be like, yeah, I could see why this was called intentionally. Otherwise, I mean, those don't happen as often. It's not like we're seeing, DBs all the time in all forms of football intentionally tackle receivers to get that flag. But, I get why they added it. It's a hybrid. it's to penalize truly messing up a play like that. And so I hope it's called right. Otherwise, I like the college ruling because, one misread tug, one misread way of defending a play can lead to changing the course of a game. And so I think 15 penalizes and gives the offense what it needs. But at the same time, it doesn't completely trash the defense's efforts because of one poorly timed maybe arm placement or one poorly timed swipe at the jersey or something along that line. Mm-hmm. That's why I like it. The judgment call part, it's going to be in the public eye.
For sure. Well, and especially if there isn't consistency on it. I think that's the big thing. But going back to having the headquarters in Los Angeles, Mike Pereira kind of running the show there, hopefully the consistency, because here's the thing. If they call it a lot, great, as long as it happens to everybody equally. If they don't call it ever, great, as long as it's the same across the board. Now, right. What you don't want to run into is kind of that, we've all seen it in a game. It happens almost back to back. On one possession, one team will do something, they get the call. The other team will almost be more blatant about it on their possession, no call. Mm-hmm. You got to avoid that. There's one thing that's going to drive football fans nuts, and that's sketchy officiating. I don't think it's going to be sketchy or bad, but the consistency piece needs to be there, and that's maybe the one. This is the biggest one that creates opportunity for a crack in that, possibly.
That's one I think that comes up sooner rather than later, and luckily it's only for intentional tackles, so possibility that you can go most of, if not an entire game without an intentional tackle. But when it comes up, people are going to talk about it.
Right.
Because it is a judgment call. Luckily, the rest of the ruling, though, like I said, I like the college rule. It doesn't reward, it rewards enough. It doesn't over reward the offense for throwing a prayer up, which is that one makes me grab my hair when those get thrown, because I'm just like, yeah, it was like an Aaron Rodgers play. That's kind of what it is. And I'm not talking like the pre-snap, you get him to jump. I'm talking like, Devontae Adams was down there. Even if he doesn't catch it, guy gets hit enough because he probably wasn't turning his head, or maybe he got the jersey. We'll get that yards. I'm like, nah, this prevents it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And the offense, and so for like the offensive one, because they have an offensive pass interference that placement here. This isn't as big. Mm-hmm. Like the defensive one's really more of the one to pay attention to. Offensive, they just won't throw. It won't be offensive pass interferences behind the line of scrimmage, which I agree with, because you're basically fighting in the muck at that stage. If you're behind the line, like you're going to have to fight to even be open if it's someone's in your face. Right. There's no net positive gain from that. You still can be tackled. So
well, you brought up the big one. It stops the Aaron Rodgers-esque situation.
Well, yeah, the defensive one. Yeah, that's exactly what that's
launching it out there, right? You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, the offensive one, the offensive pass interference rule is more just like, hey, we just want you to have your best chance to catch a football. The defensive one, it's like, look, just don't throw for a cheap flag, because everyone hates cheap flags.
Right.
I'm going to be honest. Even if you are rooting for the team that you're going for, deep down, even to me as a Bears fan, I've had it happen. Deep down that is like, yeah, that kind of sucked. I guess I'll move on with my life.
I'll take it because it's so few and far between that the Lions get a call for them. But I've definitely seen it on the other side of it, where I'm like, God, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts to lose a game because somebody threw the ball 80 yards and the other guy got his shirt tugged a little bit too hard. And next thing you know, they're at the goal line because Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
We could go on, and Aaron Rodgers is staying in the NFC North.
Or imagine the penalties in the end zone and you get something like that. It's automatically at the one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can see some people maybe saying, I don't know if I fully agree, but I'm like, hey, offense has still got to prove that they can move down the field. You shouldn't get a full free pass all the time, or a more often the time. So I like it. Maybe they tweak it, but overall, I'm okay. The judgment call, definitely watching out for, because it's going to come up.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. There's going to be at least one game where one of these things that we talked about is going to come into question. And like you mentioned, I think that one probably has the most opportunity to maybe create an issue in there, create a little bit of salt from one team's fans at least, right? Now, I mean, the cool thing is it's kind of what we expected. It wasn't a rewrite of football rules, just some minor tweaks, things that, again, are familiar to fans of spring football. Now, we've seen, as far as opinions go online, I'd say people are mostly positive. There is a segment that maybe is angry or feel like these were stolen. But I mean, I don't feel that way at all. It all really comes down to, at least the other argument, and I'll give Jake from our Den podcast credit for this because I think he's the one who brought it up in our Discord, is what would you rather do? Them not use rules just so they don't look like they're copied? Or, use different rules just for the sake of using different rules?
Correct.
I think everything here is solid. It's right up my alley, at least. It ticks all the boxes for what I feel spring football should be, right? Again, in my opinion, spring football is a little bit faster, a little bit gutsier, a little bit younger, a little bit more experimental, and hopefully without changing the whole game. And as I mentioned, this kind of ticks all the boxes. There's some things that maybe will get adjusted throughout the next season or so, but this is a solid, I think, baseline for that first season.
Yeah. I want the best game possible. This, to me, overall provides that. And I do not mind if I've seen these before, because if it ain't broke, either don't fix it or, hey, let's use it.
Right.
Like, if you liked it, use it. That's fine. It makes me more excited that stuff that was successful elsewhere is still being recognized and being used, because not only does it, I'm going to think of this from the NFL fans' perspective too. Not only do you get it in another league, but the NFL, again, takes a look and goes, another league decided to use this. We get to have it, and we get to, it's another example of them saying, like, look, this worked here, this worked here, this worked here. If NFL fans want it too, that helps their game.
Oh, for sure.
It helps the game, not just the USFL or whoever. It helps the sport, the overall sport itself.
And I think we will see the NFL adopt some of these rules, not all of them. I mean, like, for instance, overtime. I don't think we'll see them adopt this overtime for the playoffs. I think they need to tweak it for the playoffs.
It would be nice, actually, to see them adopt it for the playoffs. I would welcome it.
I don't know if I would like to see it in the playoffs. I would like to see, I think in the regular season maybe, but the playoffs definitely need to be tweaked where each team has an opportunity with the ball. Okay. That's my take. Maybe not the double forward passes, but there's definitely some items here that I think we will see cherry picked. The one that you brought up earlier, the Sky Judge, and maybe it's a little bit different here because it's based out of a different state entirely. But I think we probably see some of those implemented as well.
I got to bring this up too, because and we've gotten this word from the USFL, where it's, the NFL and the USFL are on friendly terms. They are. They very much look at this league as one that, they get to talk and discuss these bits of rules and changes with as well. So, don't take that out of account that, Fox's relation with this league, that opens possibilities for the NFL to also, look at it as well. I'm not saying that they're using it as experimental grounds. That's not what it's doing.
No, they're their own thing.
They're definitely on friendly terms. Like, that is confirmed by a league source that is the case.
Which I mean, it makes sense. We talked about this last week. It would be weird. It would be weird if the NFL wasn't friendly with the USFL, just based on the league's affiliation with Fox in itself. I mean, they're one of the leaders, if not the leaders, in football when it comes to broadcasting and broadcasting the NFL. My favorite broadcast in particular, I've always been a fan of the Fox broadcast, the Fox the pregame shows, things like that that we got out of them. So it would have been really weird. It would have been really weird if there was like a beef between the two. So I mean, as expected, there's not. And we've even heard from the CEO of Fox, Lachlan Murdoch, say that the NFL has been helping the league rather than hindering the league. They didn't go into a lot of detail on what the discussions have looked like. But I think the key thing that you brought up is unlike the XFL, they're not really looking to be a petri dish. They're looking to be complementary, if anything. They're looking to be their own thing. Sure. There's opportunities and pathways for players to jump from the USFL to the NFL. It would be silly if there wasn't. But I mean, the first thing that we saw, at least the first little inkling of a partnership, was with the officials. And I think if that works out, I think we'll see more of that. It maybe expanded on the officials, maybe expanded into some other roles. But to hear at least some semi-confirmation or at least affirmation, reaffirming our stance that the leagues are friendly, that can't be a bad thing.
No,
right?
No, I don't think it should. I mean, I think, and we've talked on this about on or off air, like the NFL, I think, and especially folks in it that are that are coaches that have been in the league or are in it currently, like they want something that does add another avenue for players and coaches and up and coming talents as well, or to help with the fan base overall. The NFL is football, so more interest in football means interest for all of football.
Right on.
Like seriously, if you are a football fan, I stress this because we talk about this all the time. Like there's the NFL fan that is the Shield, and they have to love the Shield.
Right.
And anything else that's not the Shield is just garbage.
Right.
And those people, I sit there and go, does that mean you're a football fan? Because yeah, okay, there's bad football out there.
Trust me, I know.
Does that mean you like football, or do you just like the logo that has the football in it? Like, that's the thing I have to stop and take a pause. Like, how about you slow down? We already know the NFL's the top league. It gets all the best players. That's fine. But there's good football beyond just like the Mahomeses and the Lamar Jacksons and the others of the world. Like, there are people playing good games in other leagues.
Oh, right on.
That or don't get that opportunity. That's what this is for. If you stop for a second, you look away from just the big NFL logo, you can find something out there. That's what this is for.